All right. And you may be seated. And one more time, will you help me by welcoming everybody joining in online or on demand, wherever they are. Thanks for joining in. We're glad you're here. If you're new with us this morning, my name is Matt. I'm one of the pastors here at Santa Cruz Bible Church. We're glad that you are here. We hope you feel at home. And today we are beginning a new series called Disconnected. And that word is a feeling that I do not like to have. Disconnected. I don't like it when I'm on a call and I'm driving on the one and it's that little spot in Capitola that gets me every single time and my call drops or something. I'm like, oh, whatever. Or I'm somewhere and the Wi-Fi goes out. Those are kind of bratty things, but I don't like being relationally disconnected either. I'm married and I don't like it when Carrie and I suddenly we've had a busy week and we're like ships in the night just kind of waving at each other and I don't feel connected. I don't like that feeling of disconnection. And in the past few years, what we've really been doing as a society as a whole has been reconnecting a lot of things that got disconnected during the pandemic, right? And in this post-pandemic world, we've been trying to reconnect all those things. Like you probably remember the first day you went back to the office after all that, right? Or maybe the first event you went to, there was a large crowd, and it was kind of reconnecting things. The first time you got on a plane, started traveling around everywhere again. Those are things that we just have reconnected, and they've probably been reconnected for you for a few years, and we kind of readapted to life. But there's been some things that have been harder to reconnect for others. And for a lot of people, faith has been one of those things. For in the last few years especially, a lot of people have felt derailed by seeing this weird blend of politics and faith. Maybe you got caught up in it. Or maybe, and you like a lot of people, walked away from church because of it. And that's been a big thing. Or maybe you've had damaging experiences in church or by Christian people, and those things have been kind of hard to get over, and they left you feeling disconnected. A lot of people are deconstructing their faith, trying to separate, what's Jesus and what never was Jesus, but I thought it was, kind of a thing, and trying to go through that. So there's a lot of reasons that a lot of people feel disconnected regarding faith. And then if you think about church in general, church has probably been even harder to reconnect because our schedules are back to busy, but for a lot of us, our priorities have kind of shifted after COVID and all that happened, which I'm not trying to gild anybody or anything. I'm just saying it's just a reality that for a lot of people, church has been one of those things that I'm like, should we reconnect? Do we even want to reconnect? How do we reconnect? A lot of questions, right? I'm going to show you this graph because I know everybody loves a graph. Oh my God, that's nothing's more inspiring than a graph. But anyway, especially this one, statistics show us that people who identify as never attending church basically has almost doubled in the last 14 years. Okay, so if you look, that number has increased from 44 million people to 85 million people. And as you can kind of see through where the crux is there between 2012 and 2014, the pandemic did not cause this, contrary to popular belief, but it did accelerate this shift and change that was already kind of happening. And again, this is not a message about church attendance or some goofy stuff like that. It's just, to me, a sign of something bigger that we need to kind of think about because it's been a hard thing for people to reconnect. But the disconnection isn't just with faith or church. For a lot of us, too, the disconnection has still been from others, from each other. This year, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness as a public health crisis. Now, if you don't know what they mean by loneliness, they had the Center for Disease Control define it. And loneliness is feeling like you do not have meaningful or close relationships or a sense of belonging. And according to the American Psychiatric Association, they found out right now that 1 out of every 3 Americans feels lonely at least once a week, and 10% of all Americans feel lonely every single day. Unprecedented levels of this, even as we've reconnected after the pandemic. It's interesting. As much as we've reconnected, there's still these disconnections that we may be wrestling with. I know some of you are thinking Matt, gosh, if you were trying to cheer us up this morning, you were doing the worst job ever. This is really discouraging stuff. But I do think these are things we need to discuss, and here's the point to this. Over these next few weeks, We want to talk about ways that we can reconnect. And maybe even address some of the issues that we've had toward reconnecting to faith or church or each other or whatever that is. And even if you're a person who feels like, I've already reconnected back to faith, I've reconnected back to a community of faith or reconnected to friends and all that stuff, and I have deep friendships, that may be you, and that's fine. But the reason why I think these conversations are so important, one of the reasons why, is because I believe God is calling our church to be a great place for disconnected people, right? And I'm not trying to say that in a bold, weird way, okay? Like, I'm just trying to say that I think that's kind of part of our role in the present time, is to be a place for people who feel this way and feel disconnected. And now this first week might step on your toes. I'm just warning you right now, okay? And the reason why it may step on your toes is I'm going to try to describe something that is extremely hard to describe. Very hard to describe. It's tough to talk about. I'm going to give it a shot. But this is an issue that people are dealing with in real time today. And so I want to kind of have a discussion about it because I think there's a lot of folks in the mix on this. And to kind of start this off, for years, I've told people to personalize their walk with God. Okay, and what I mean by that is connect to God in the ways where you feel the strongest connection. Okay, if there's certain things, maybe depending on your personality, that you want to lean into, do that. Okay, because here's what I want you to understand. Your relationship with God is never supposed to be some rigid, boring routine, right? If you feel like you need to clock in, you're doing it wrong, right? That's not what it's supposed to be. So depending on your personality and the things that your preferences and the things that you kind of live with, mainly your personality, you may implement things like music as part of that, art, nature, studying, serving other people. There's just certain things that certain people implement and say, man, when I do this, I feel a really strong connection. And so what I've always done is encourage people to say, if there's personal ways that you connect with God, lean into them because that makes your relationship with Him more personal and more life-giving. So there's personalizing it to get that connection. And then there's this thing called individualizing it. Now, some of you are like, I've never heard that term in my life, individualizing your spiritual life. What does that even mean? That sounds so like heady and theology, whatever. And here's how I want to describe it to you, because if you're not comfortable or you don't know the term individualism, it's very popular in our country, and this is what it means. Individualism is being independent or self-reliant, okay? Big value in our country is to be independent, self-reliant. I don't need anybody. I'm successful on my own. I'm doing things on my own, right? So where personalizing your relationship with God is finding those ways you help connect with God. Individualizing a relationship means that you are trying to make it independent of others and self-reliant or self-driven, okay? Like, let me describe it, okay, because it's hard to describe this. For example, there's no community in your life, but lots of content. Like, for example, I don't belong to a church, but I watch 3 of them online, okay? Or I don't have a group of people that I talk to, but I talk to a therapist once a year, whether I need to or not, okay? And I try to get it all in that hour, right? You know, kind of thing, because that's what I want to do. Here's a way to describe it, okay? And see if this makes sense. I don't belong anywhere, but I'm getting what I need from everywhere. Does that make sense? Kind of shake? No? Yes? Some of you are like, no. It means I don't really belong to a group of people, or I'm not like, no one's involved in my spiritual life. It's all me. And I kind of get the content, what I need. I kind of get what I need as I need it as I kind of go. And this is a natural result of not only post-pandemic life, but a digital era, because there's so many things we can benefit from, which are good. Right? You can go on YouTube and watch something. You can go and get a podcast or go get social media and see things that encourage you and inspire you, because you're obviously not on Facebook if you're doing that. Anyway, or apps or whatever it is, right? We can benefit from all that. But what's interesting about a spiritual life that just basically benefits, well, let me put it to you this way. It's designed just for me. Completely designed just for me. I don't know about you, but when it's just for me, custom designed for me, the problem is I make the rules, right? So here's what we do. I do what I want to do, and I don't do what I don't want to do, right? That's hard. That's uncomfortable. I'm not going to do that. I want to benefit from everything that I'm doing spiritually, and if I don't see a benefit to this, I'm not going to do it. So keep what you like, throw out what you don't. If something's not working for me, I change it. Okay, so now, some of you are like, I don't like the way you're describing this. Like, and don't get defensive. I'm not trying to sound harsh. I'm not trying to step on toes, okay? But it's you're trying to describe this thing that is so hard to describe. That is such a, and I want you to understand, individualizing your faith is very, very popular right now. Very popular. It is all the rage, right? And if this is you, and you find yourself kind of fitting what I'm saying, don't get defensive, don't throw something at me, whatever. It's popular because it works for a while. But you run into problems. And what I think is worth discussing is what some of those problems are. And let's be real, you can already deduce maybe some of what the problems of this can end up being. Individualized spiritual life does not work because you need other people. You need community, right? And that's a problem. Like a spiritual life where you do what you want to do sounds great, but the problem is, God is the problem, okay? Because God sometimes will push you to do things you don't want to do. And that is a problem, right? Because if I don't do those things, what am I going to do, right? Maturity, as you know, requires growth. And growth requires pushing past comfort zones. I mean, here's the most deep prayer you'll ever pray in your life. God, make me uncomfortable. But don't pray it unless you mean it. Because there's so much growth and discomfort. But and growth is even painful at times. But if you have a painless, uber convenient, uber comfortable spiritual life, that sounds great. But it's hard to grow if you're dodging things that challenge you or push you, right? And again, I'm just keeping it real. Here's one other thing. We're not supposed to be the sole beneficiaries of our faith. Right? Like it's not just us benefiting it. Others are supposed to benefit from our faith. Others are supposed to benefit from our serving and our generosity and our kindness. There are hard things that we do that are hard for us but help other people. Like another way to put it is we forgive people. That's hard for us. Helps them. We put others before ourselves. We are gracious when other people are not. Those are things that are hard to do. But we do those things because they're hard for us, but they help other people. So as your pastor, again, before you throw something, here's the deal. All I'm trying to say is you have to remember these things when we're thinking about how we're walking out a modern spiritual life today. And here's those things. God made you to be in community, not just content. Right? The goal of our spiritual life is growth, not comfort. And another thing is we're here to benefit others, not ourselves. I want you to think about those things just real quick. We're supposed to be in community, not just content. That's kind of hard to do, right? We're supposed to benefit others, not just ourselves, right? The goal, we understand, I'm supposed to, it's not about me being comfortable, I get it. But these things are true, but they're going to kind of be a problem. And I want you, now let me jump to the other side for all the folks who feel stepped on or feel whatever. I completely understand individualizing your faith. And I'm going to tell you why. I totally relate to it because I love every single piece and part of individualizing your faith. I love content. I like content in an unhealthy way. Like I like it, I love it, I want some more of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I like content, okay? For my job for 20-something years has been a content creator. I love writing content, I love teaching content, I love absorbing content from all kinds of resources. I swim in a sea of it, I love it, okay? I love content. And I love comfort. Like, I love comfort. I love a soft bed. I love a warm blanket. I love comfort food. Some of you are like, I can tell. Hey, shut up. You know, here's the thing. All right, and I like comfort shows. I like comfort movies. I'm so glad Lazy Boy is still around because ever since I was 5 years old, I'm like, I'm going to get one of those chairs. Like one day, right? Like that's like the end game for me is like retirement. I don't know. I don't know if I'll, who or whatever, but I just want that chair, right? Give me that chair, right? Like, I love comfort. I love custom designing things for me, right? I want the workout to be the way I want it. Like, this is just for me. I want my work day to work out just for me. I want that playlist that fits the mood I'm in right now. I want a snack that's going to fit the craving that I have right now. Like I want it custom designed. I love all the stuff. I absolutely love it. But I'm also aware that if my spiritual life is as comfortable and as convenient as possible, I am going to get stuck. And I mean stuck, because there's no one else but me doing this. There's no one else but me involved. And there's no discomfort pushing me. And there's no one else benefiting from my walk with God except me. And I'm going to get stuck. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. And I've got to come to front. And maybe for those of you who relate to this, we got to come to terms with this. Sometimes, if you're honest, you really want to grow, but you don't feel like you're really moving forward. You kind of feel stuck in the same spot. And it's kind of like personalizing, like again, your walk with God was how we connect with God and kind of get it stronger and move into those things. But if individualizing is something that you've done, which basically means my spiritual life is really focused on me, eventually you're disconnected from everything else. And you're not sure what to do about it because it's just a natural result of that kind of isolation. It just happens. This is why the author of Hebrews wrote this in Hebrews 10:23. He said this, "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm. For God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. And let us not neglect our meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near." Now, I want you to pay very attention because I was trying to draw it out as I read it. The author of Hebrews is not saying, hey, you try to hope in God and just try to stay encouraged out there by yourself. No. The author of Hebrews says, let us hope together. Let us encourage each other. Let's motivate each other. Let's keep meeting. Let's keep connecting. Let's keep helping each other move forward. Because what he's saying is if you want to grow and you want to move forward, this is a us, we, together thing. It's not an I, you, and maybe someone over there. Like it's not me. It's us, we, together. Because that feeling of being stuck, that's what's going to happen when there's not anyone else involved in your life, in your spiritual life, is going to make you realize something very important. It is hard to grow from a distance. And I respect every single reason that people keep this stuff or keep church and faith from a distance and kind of have a stiff arm approach to it and say, I like it, I just am not into it right now. I like that, I'm just not, it's not. It's hard to grow that way. It just is. And again, being honest, because coming from a distance, we're kind of isolated with our content and our comfort, and we're kind of over here, but there's no one in our lives. And it's the equivalent of like driving a car out into the desert, right? What happens when you break down? What happens if a car breaks down? There's no one out there. There's no one with you. There's no one that's going to help you. You're out there by yourself. And when things break down in life, this is what I'm telling you. The effort that you have put into being on your own backfires. It is so fun to be on your own when things are good and comfortable, but when everything falls apart, feeling alone is the worst. I mean, trying to go from a distance, that I want you to understand, it has its comforts, but it also has consequences that you're going to run into eventually, because eventually you will be home alone struggling, and you don't know who to reach out to. If you've never been in a hospital waiting room and you don't have any idea who to call, I've been there. It's the worst feeling in the world. To go, everything is falling apart. I don't even know who to call. If you've ever been sitting in your car late at night, tears streaming down your eyes, you can't drive yet, hands on the wheel, wondering how in the world am I going to wake up tomorrow and move on with my life? Who do I call? Who do I reach out to? Who can just pray for me or anything? And you don't have anybody. That's not something, basically that's a tragedy you weren't meant to experience at all. But it is a natural consequence of a spiritual life that is completely pulled apart from everybody else. We need others in our life. And I get it is uncomfortable to open up to other people. Yes, 100%, I agree with you. But it's more uncomfortable to be alone when you really need other people. And because you've never opened up your life, here we are. There are just things you can't do alone. Now, I'm not a licensed counselor. There's a lot of them in the room that can email me or text me after this and tell me how stupid I am. But here's the thing, which I think that's not something they probably would do. But anyway, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not a counselor. Here's the thing. You can't process trauma really alone. I mean, you need to have someone with you. Like you can't be mentally and emotionally healthy alone. You can't really be spiritually healthy alone. Out there by yourself on Content Island, right? Like, we're out here, I'm just having a good time, kind of doing things when I want to do, right? Like, living my life, but it comes back on you. So what do we need? I think, again, when Paul wrote this in Philippians, he was really hitting the nail on the head of what we need right now. And here it is, Philippians 2, 1 through 2. He says this: if you've gotten anything at all out of following Christ, and if his love has made any difference in your life, I'd say that's a majority of a lot of people that are probably listening to this right now, that God's made a difference in my life. I care about following Jesus. If being in a community of the Spirit means anything to you, right? If you have a heart, if you care, then do me a favor, agree with each other, love each other, be deep-spirited friends. Now I want to ask you a question. Do you have any deep-spirited friends? People you can really open up with and just share, like, I have had the worst week ever, and I just need to sit here at the Santa Cruz diner and cuss for 30 minutes. Is that okay, right? And someone will sit and listen. And here's what I'm saying. Is anybody in your life helping you move forward in your life? Well, I have people I can watch football with. I have people I can watch. Okay, yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. That's great. But can you talk to them about stuff? That's the challenge, right? The distance that we keep is so comfortable until it is absolutely not within a second. Something happens, and now all of a sudden, oh, I wish I hadn't have done this. I wish I hadn't have done this. You know, it's interesting because a few years ago, we socially distanced. Like, you guys all remember that? We were all kind of walking like 10 feet from each other, and it was kind of weird, right? And we were doing that so we just trying to figure out ways not to make each other sick, right? Trying to figure that stuff out. And we don't socially distance anymore. But for a lot of people, they're still spiritually distanced. It's like, I still keep this like weird radius around me. I don't want anybody to really know me. I don't want anybody to get involved. I don't want anybody, knowing what's going on in my life. And the problem is, that feeling of being afraid and alone and out by yourself, it's like this. It's like a boat that's out in the ocean adrift. By itself. It's not, it's so comfortable and it's great until it's not. And what I'm telling you is there is a dock where you can pull in and finally find some rest, because you don't just need a connection to God. You need a connection to other people. And we grow in community. It's not as comfortable, it's not as convenient, but it will change your life. It will challenge you in good ways and strengthen your life in the right ways. So what am I telling you to do? What is the point of this? Here's what I'm telling you to do. If you find yourself here, or you find yourself even slightly here or tilting this way, take a step toward community. Now, what does that mean? It could look all kinds of different ways. Does that mean for some of you, you need to cultivate what Paul called deep-spirited friends? You need to have some friendships in your life. Yes, maybe that's what it means for you. Like, I've got to have someone in my life I can open up with. For some of you, you may say, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Can I jump in one of those group things? Y'all have these group things at the church, and I can jump in that and meet some people because I don't know who's here and who's not. And absolutely. For some of you, that just means I'm just going to get in a group. We have all kinds of them. For some of you, like maybe I can volunteer on a team. I don't want to sit in a group, but I'd like to do something with people. Can I do something with people and get to know them? Yes, you can jump on a team. For some of you, it just means that your friendships are all at surface level. And maybe, just maybe, you need to set up that coffee or set up that dinner or set up that time where you go out and just go, man, listen, you don't have to answer any of these things. You don't have to have any answers for me, but I just need to talk. And most good friends don't sit and try to tell you what to do, right? Well, A plus B equals C, and if you just figure it out, like most people don't do that, right? Like, I learned the hard way. That's not being a good husband, right? My wife would come to me about something. I'm like, well, okay, if you just do this. And she's like, okay. And it took me, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years to realize, like, this is the dumbest thing I'm doing, right? Like, she's not asking me to fix it. She's just asking me to listen. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. And then that was hard, right? What I'm saying is, it's just, I don't expect you to, this is not therapy. I don't expect you to have answers. But I need to talk. Because I'm scared. Or I'm concerned. Or I feel so out of control with this situation. I don't know what to do. And I just need to talk. I don't know if it's friends, groups, teams, whatever it is, but you need to take a step to connect with other people. And here, can I say this to you? Do it today. Because you know what you're going to do? Go set up that coffee or go sign up for the thing today or whatever. I'm going to give you a way to do that in a second, for those watching online especially. Do you know what's going to happen if you don't? Because you're going to wait, and then what's going to happen? You're going to sink into what's comfortable again. You almost took that step, and then you're like, oh, but I like my little cushy, I love this kind of warm blanket. Well, it's so comfortable over here where no one knows my name, right? Until it's really not. Take that step. As a church, can I say something? There's one thing that we offer like no one else. Because there's not a lot of stuff we offer that can compete with the world out there. Like, our building is not Disneyland, okay? Like, you drop your kids off, it's not the same experience as Universal or what. It's not the same thing, okay? Our music is not sold-out concerts, okay? It's not the Eras Tour, okay? Like, you know, like, the speakers here, they're not the best, okay? Like, we're not premium live entertainment, okay? No one's asking me to go anywhere or speak, or, you know, so I understand all that. You can really find better seats, better coffee, and better parking in a lot of places, okay? Some of you are like, well, I like these seats. Thank you very much. Don't get defensive, okay? I like our coffee. So, but the one thing we offer more than anybody else is connection to people, community. You can find other people who are trying to move forward, who can encourage you and who honestly need your encouragement too. Who just maybe need to open up too and go, boy, can we have coffee? That'd be so great, because I just need some encouragement. I just need to know I'm not crazy. I need to know I'm not alone. Can you help me do that? People who will pray for you, care for you. They don't have all the answers. They're not supposed to. But they're there. That is the one thing I believe the church offers still better than anybody else. Connecting with God, when you think about it this way, if you don't know how to connect with others, it is a lot like connecting with God, and that when you're trying to connect with God, there's two things you usually do. You open yourself up, and then you seek Him out. I'm open and I'm going to seek, right? And it is kind of the same way with connecting with other people. I got to open myself up to people, and I got to seek out these friendships. I need to be the one making the call. I need to be the one sending the text. I need to seek this thing out. Because when you do, you grow. And it is not as comfortable, and it is not convenient. And I know some of you are like, why can't everything spiritually that I'm supposed to do, that you guys talk about on Sunday, fit my schedule and fit my lifestyle, right? Because if basically what you're telling me to do would just not be something that would, be another appointment or another thing or take any time at all, that'd be great. But it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And if you will take this step, can I tell you something that you will always have? You will always have someone to call. You will always have a place where you belong. No matter what's going on. And if I stepped on your toes today, okay, I'm not sure what to tell you, because honestly, stepping on toes is part of growth too, right? I've had some people step on my toes before, and I was kind of like, oh, I need to think about that. Yeah, they might be right. That stuff happens. And I get why we shy away from that, because a lot of folks have been hurt. A lot of folks have felt betrayed or whatever, like you've had bad experiences with opening up and things like that before. I understand it. Life is so much easier, at least it seems that way, when you are alone and nice and individualized. But let me assure you for an absolute fact, it is not easier. Because when certain things happen, it is not easier at all. It is way harder. It is so hard to grow from a distance. And if you find yourself at a distance, that is okay. There's 1,000 valid good reasons that distance is still there. But what are you going to do with it? And can I say this? I believe the best thing that we can do as a church, okay, as Santa Cruz Bible Church, as a community of faith, is to offer safe harbor for all storm-battered boats, okay? That we can be a place to say, listen, not every harbor in your life has felt safe. I understand that. And sometimes you tried to dock and other boats were cracking up against you and things got rough, and I understand that. But here's the thing. This harbor, this church, here's what I know about it. It is full of very imperfect people who have been through storms. Who've been through a lot of stuff, who've been through, you will sit down and go, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, you've been through that. It happens all the time. And we have found safe harbor here only by encouraging each other, accepting each other, and supporting each other, and just saying, hey, I don't care where you're coming from, you got a place here. We always got a seat for you. I mean, we have the statement we say, hope for everyone. If you haven't heard that yet, that's kind of what our vision is, hope for everyone. And I know some of you are like, you don't really mean everyone, right? And that's the word that gets everybody tripped up. Because if it was hope for people I like, you would all love it. Right? If it was hope for people I like, our giving would be like through the roof, right? People would be like, absolutely, I'm throwing it out. But hope for everyone, right? I don't know if I'm serving there. Because what if I run into a weirdo? Have you lived here? Anyway. So many people like, I don't like that kind of church because there could be somebody weird there. And I'm like, okay. How long have you lived in this county? I don't have a question. So that's what you're worried about? Okay, sure. Every boat can find safe harbor here, and that's what we want to be about. But the main thing is this, and let me just say this before I close out. If you're trying to find a place to connect, we're going to put a QR code on the screen real quick here. And for those watching online, we're going to put that up there. We're trying to get that going on. But that's in our seats if you're here live. But this is a way, just literally scan that with your phone. It takes you right up to a bunch of links. There's different ways you can jump in. That's an easy way to do that. That thing is there 24 hours a day. You can go on our website and get here anytime. You can take a picture of this and scan it with somebody else. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, but it's here all the time. You could even scan it right now and then just kind of hold that, like bookmark that and go, I don't know if I'm ready, and then just sit and stare at it like a weirdo for days, right? And then all of a sudden click it and go, I don't know, whatever your thing is, but We have all kinds of ways to connect with you, and we try to provide an experience where if you scan that and you say something, we try to have a concierge experience where we literally have a person who just gets in touch with you and just helps you connect and just kind of wants to hear a little bit and just goes like, okay, I think I found the best way. We really want to help make sure you find a way to connect that really works, that would really, benefit you in a positive way, but helps you connect with other people. But to wrap this up, a less comfortable and less convenient faith is exactly what you need. And some of you are like, and that's why I'm going to Twin Lakes next week, because I don't care. That is not the message I wanted to hear right now. But I'm telling you the truth. In our day and time, we have more conveniences and more ways to do this than we've ever had. And I feel like we need to enter the chat on this and say, hey, that may not always work because you need other people. There is a messiness that's supposed to be there because of Jesus and his whole life. And if you have questions, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. But the whole point is there's a messiness with church. There's a messiness in our lives that we're supposed to have because of grace. And when that messiness is there, it doesn't fit your schedule. It doesn't fit the things, but it's the best thing you can have in your life because it's each other and it's not being alone. There's a step right in front of you right now today. And it doesn't say I, me. It says us, we, each other. And I want to encourage you. Take that step. Well, I don't know, right? My concern is one day you'll regret that you didn't. So today, do what you'll never regret doing. Take a step to not individualize your faith, but to get back into an each other, us, we community faith where you're not alone. You'll never regret it. Let's pray together. Father, we come to you right now in this moment. And I know I stepped on some toes today. I know there's some folks that are like, boy, is there anything else you could talk about? But we need connection. And that never changes. We need community. Growth sometimes is pushing past the comfort stuff. And Father, I pray for any person who hears this, who's here today or listening to this whenever, that they will take a step toward finding deep-spirited friends, whether it's a group or a team, or maybe it's just having a coffee and finally opening up about some things. But you did not mean for us to walk alone and to be alone in a time of need. So, Father, would you help us to do the healthiest, but not the easiest thing we could do today? And to step back into a faith for each other. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.